Settle into the scientific nap. Tonight, your rest is wrapped in nature's hush. Feel the breeze of quiet thoughts, the warmth of safe dreams. Your breath moves like soft wind through a sleeping forest. Roots of calm grow deeper with each exhale. Rest easy, you belong to the gentle night, the birth of all things. Disguised as emptiness, you hover there, still weightless, in a space that isn't space. A breath without lungs, a pause without time. Around you there is nothing, not blackness, not cold, not even quiet. Just a kind of waiting, soft and infinite, like the universe is holding its breath. And for a moment, you do too. Then it happens, not with thunder or roar, but with a warmth behind your ribs, a pulse, a crack in the stillness. The tiniest light unfolds from itself like a secret too bright to keep. Not a flash, but a bloom. You feel it more than see it, not outside you, but from somewhere deep within. The spark expands, curling outward in every direction, and you are swept into it. Time rushes to exist. Space stretches like silk being pulled across an endless frame. You fall gently upward, downward, sideways. All directions are born at once, and none of them hold you. Particles spin from nothing, jittering into motion like newborn thoughts. Each one a question made of energy. What is this? Where is it? Who are you? And as they collide and bind and break again, you realize you are made of the same question. Stardust hasn't yet become stars, but somehow you are already dreaming. Colors that do not exist in waking shimmer around you. Reds deeper than memory, blues that hum. Heat brushes your skinless skin. The whole world is a thought unfurling, one that doesn't know what it will become. A radiant uncertainty, sacred and raw. You drift through clusters that collapse and ignite. You pass through filaments of matter, forming galaxies not yet born, their arms still ghost-thin and coiled with potential. The universe is not shaped yet. It is still trembling, still molten with hope. And in that softness, you feel small, not from fear, but awe. There is no map, but your body remembers something older than direction. It leans toward gravity like a child reaching for a story. You spin with the first atoms, dance through halos of hydrogen, and sink into clouds dense with silence. These are the nursery rooms of everything. In this haze, light can rest. Time can begin to flow like water. You pass through the heart of a forming star, not burning yet, only dreaming of fire. It is heavy with promise, but still unsure. You pause there, inside it, inside the becoming. You can feel the tug of fusion waiting, a tension that says, almost, it's not a detonation. It's a decision, and when it comes, it's quiet. A shift, a yes. The star ignites, and in its light, shadows are born. Not darkness as absence, but darkness as shape. The first contrast, the first chance to notice that something has changed. You drift into the glow and the outline it casts, both necessary, both real. The expanding fabric of space stretches. Like breath drawn slowly in, it doesn't rush. It lengthens and cools, softening from chaos into coherence. You float between dimensions that haven't settled, rules that haven't been decided. The laws of physics are still sketching themselves, in ink that never dries. And yet you trust them, because even here, in the infant cosmos, there is rhythm. Expansion has a pulse. Particles have preferences. Time begins to have a flavor, and you begin to have a direction. Forward, though no one says what that means. Behind you, the light keeps spreading, as if it too is unsure when to stop. Ahead of you, matter starts to gather like memory. You pass clusters forming bones of future galaxies, stars swirling like unborn thoughts, and you feel something new. Gravity, a longing, a call toward togetherness. What once was wild heat now begins to settle. Attraction, structure, maybe even a story. You float down into a young filament of forming dust. It cradles you, dim and warm like a womb. You curl there, inside a thread of what will one day be a world. It is still dreaming, a soft intention, not yet solid. But the ingredients are there, and so are you. You are not watching this happen. You are this happening. The pulse of matter becomes memory. The way energy lingers just long enough to become formed, the dream inside the dark that refuses to end. The cosmos does not roar into being, it whispers, it exhales. It holds you in the breath, between before and after. You reach out, not with hands, but with presence, and the universe reaches back. Not a god, not a voice, just warmth, just yes. And somewhere within that yes, the first shadow stirs. Not a threat, not yet. Just a possibility. You do not fear it, you follow it. And somewhere ahead, the silence shifts again. It tilts, like a note held too long, trembling just before the next chord. You move toward it, gently drawn, not pulled, but invited. The darkness here is golden, not cold, and it pulses with something almost like breath. There is a weight ahead, a gravity not of motion, but of memory. The silence cracks open into a light too large to belong in one place. A star swells before you, not fierce, but weary. It is vast and burning and ancient, its edges fraying like fabric worn thin from holding so much. You feel its heat not on your skin, but behind your ribs. It is not angry, it is aching. This star has forgotten how to end. You float closer through its trembling corona. It does not push you away. You are not intruding, only witnessing. The star knows you are here, and in some soft way it welcomes you. Its light flickers unevenly, flickers like a thought circling something too hard to admit. Inside. Its heart is heavy with ash elements. It once forged in triumph, now weigh it down. Iron pools where fire once danced. Fusion slows. The center folds inward, dense with inevitability. You can feel it, that moment just before surrender, that hush before the collapse, but it waits. The star waits, and in that pause, time stretches like warm glass. Around you, the universe watches quietly. Even galaxies seem to dim their spinning. This is not an ordinary moment. This is the kind that echoes. You drift into its memory, the places where this star once burned bright. Worlds spun around it like children orbiting a parent. Its light-fed oceans, painted skies, told time. Somewhere, long ago, someone may have looked up and given it a name. A whisper into dark air, a myth to hold on to. Now, the myths are breaking. You reach deeper. At the core, the heat is still unbearable, but it no longer rises. It curls inward, unsure of where to go. The star is collapsing, not in panic, but in silence. A folding of self, a return, and just as it begins to fold completely inward, something resists. A shimmer, not survival, transformation. You feel the core give way, and in that moment, the star unbuttons itself. Not with violence, but with a kind of sacred disassembly. Light erupts outward in slow, celestial silence. Shells of glowing matter ripple into the void. The star becomes a bloom, its petals of plasma flung in all directions. You drift in the aftermath. It is not destruction, it is scattered, a seed. What was once too much for one body now belongs to the universe. You move through nebulae of color, scarlets, violets, smoke-like blues, where dust and memory coalesce. It is not the end of the star. It is its echo, still expanding. You touch a drifting fragment. It glows faintly and cools in your palm. It is heavier than you expect. Inside, it is gold. Inside, it is iron, oxygen, and carbon. Pieces of bone and breath and future trees. The ingredients of people, of places, of music. You realize you are built from this. The stardust here will gather again, not now, not soon, but someday. Gravity will pull it close, shape it into a planet or another sun, or something stranger still. But in this quiet now, it simply drifts, becoming, unbecoming, free. You look back. The center of the star is gone. In its place, something impossibly dense spins like a held breath. A neutron star, small, fast, burning like the last word of a long sentence. Its pulses blink across the black like a cosmic heartbeat. It is the leftover core, still remembering what it was. But not all stars end so gently. Some collapse deeper, disappear into themselves completely, light swallowed, time torn. You feel the memory of those two, circling silently at the edge of knowing. Still, this star chose a different ending. It remembered how to release it, and as the light continues outward, old light, newborn light, you follow it, past the drifting remnants, past the glowing arcs of dust that will one day sing life into something else. You ride the wave of its farewell, and it feels like music, not a song with lyrics, but something you hum without knowing why. It carries you forward, through folds in space you cannot name. And though the light dims behind you, the warmth of its letting go lingers. Some endings are not falls, but openings. Ahead, the dark begins to shimmer again, not with stars, but with something quieter, not with light, but with waiting, and somewhere beyond the nebula, you sense something frozen, something vast and still, quietly turning beneath sheets of ancient ice sand, somewhere beyond the nebula. You sense something frozen, something vast and still, quietly, turning beneath sheets of ancient ice. You follow the pull of it, slow, inevitable, until starlight fades behind you, and the quiet grows thick, silver, cold. The space around you condenses into pale shadows. Breath crystallizes in your chest. The air tastes of hush and waiting below. A planet lies, sealed in glass, not shattered, not broken, just paused. Oceans flattened into mirrors, mountains softened. Under white silence, you drift downward, and the sky above you no longer moves. It is held in place, like time pinned in frost. Clouds are frozen mid-gesture. Nothing falls. You step onto a wave caught mid-crest, its curves preserved in ice. Like a thought you almost finished. Beneath your feet, the sea is locked, miles deep, unmoving. The planet has forgotten how to be warm. You walk, the wind doesn't blow. It hangs suspended in the air, too heavy to stir. Your footsteps echo softly against the crystal floor, though you make no sound. Around you, everything gleams, not with joy, but with memory. Like a lullaby sung too long. In the distance, ridges of ice rise like the backs of sleeping giants. The sun above is dim and far, unable to melt even the edges. You realize This world is not dead, it is dreaming. This is not a grave. It is a breath held too long. You reach a fissure where the ice thins. Below, darkness stirs. Barely. Somewhere beneath miles of frozen ocean, something living turns in slow spirals. Tiny movements. Faint flickers of energy. Bubbles that never rise. It is life not thriving, but enduring. You kneel beside the crack. Press your fingers against the surface. The cold slips into your skin like silence curling around a secret. You listen, and in the deep below, you hear it. Not a voice, but a rhythm. A slow, ancestral pulse. Cells whispering to each other in languages older than language. They say, wait. They say, not yet. They say, still here. You follow that whisper down, not physically, but through knowing. You slip through layers of ancient frost, each one a century folded into stillness. Time here does not tick. It settles, it thickens, it rests. In the deep you find them. Microbes clinging to warmth at volcanic vents. Life coiled around the last embers of Earth's inner fire. No light reaches them, no sun sings, but they do not vanish. They glow gently, like the breath of something that refuses to forget. This is not survival through strength. It is survival through slowness, through patience so vast it becomes its own kind of courage. You rise again, back through the layers, back towards sky and stillness. The world above has not changed, but something in you has. You understand now, the ice was never punishment. It was preservation, a pause, not a sentence. The planet slowed itself to sleep, wrapped in cold to protect what little it could. In this stillness, it waited for the sky to shift. And somewhere in that waiting, change begins. The sun tilts, just enough. Light sharpens. Not much, just a sliver, a suggestion. But in a place this still, even suggestion is power. You look up, a drop forms. It hangs at the edge of a glacier's eye, trembles, lets go. One drop, then another. The first melt is not dramatic, it is tender, quiet as waking. Cracks form in the mirror sea. A breath exhales across the plains. You kneel once more and press your hand to the surface. The cold is still there, but now, beneath it, a current stirs. Not a tide, not yet, but something close. You hear it again, that pulse. Stronger. Now, life is stretching far off. A river begins to murmur beneath its icy lid. The wind, shyly, begins to move. Snow falls from a branch and does not land. It drifts. It floats. It becomes motionless again. You do not smile, but you feel the shape of one inside you, blooming softly. The kind of smile that belongs to things coming back. This world, once paused, begins to unfold. You walk again, not to escape, but to continue. The ice beneath you cracks but holds. The air grows thinner, clearer. The color returns to the sky like breath returning to lungs. It's not bright, but it's enough. You turn once to look back. The frozen ocean shimmers behind you, still half asleep, still remembering how to thaw. But it is not what it was, and neither are you. You walk on into a twilight that is slowly warming, across the waking skin of a world that almost forgot itself. It drifts slowly downward, not like a feather, but like a thought that's been waiting for a place to land. You watch the shimmer stretch into a long arc, glowing too bright for comfort, too quiet for thunder. The frozen plains below seem to hold their breath. Then, as if the sky itself remembers something terrible, the light blooms. not in sound, but in knowing a pulse through the bones of the world. As if time itself stumbles for a moment, the hills around you flicker, flicker again, then still. The shimmer is gone. Only the afterglow lingers, etched in memory, scorched behind your eyes like the shape of a word you almost understand. You walk forward, drawn by the absence. The snow beneath your feet thins, melts, not from heat, but from history. A crater opens in the land like a scar that no longer bleeds but never forgets. Its edge is not sharp, but soft with moss, as if the earth has tried to heal, though not to hide. Below, in the basin, lie remnants, smooth stones, blackened glass, and whispers of forests turned to ash. And still, something breathes here, not life, not death, but what comes after both. The shape of change. The air grows warmer as you descend, not with sunlight, but with memory, thick, old memory. You reach a ledge where the ground curves inward, and time pools like water in your cupped hands. You feel the moment, not when the world ended, but when it forgot how to continue the way it once did. At that moment, the sky rained fire. The oceans boiled where they kissed the land. Great shadows fell, scaled and soaring, and never stood again. The rhythm of life skipped like a record too, cracked to sing. But this story is not about endings. This is a field where endings became seeds. You reach the bottom. Here, the stone is smooth, like it has been wept over by time itself. Tiny fossils sleep in the walls, spirals, spines, the memory of things small and silent. After the giants vanished, they remained, they waited. They changed, you pick up. A shard of ancient glass, once sand, once fire, now cooled into transparency. You hold it to the sky, and it refracts the light oddly, bending it into colors that feel like language. For a moment, it's as if the planet is whispering to you through a prism. There was no voice, no plan, no mercy, only the physics of impact. A rock, a direction, a speed. And yet, the randomness birthed direction. The silence that followed wasn't emptiness. It was listening. Life, in its stubborn softness, grew around the edges of devastation. Not quickly, but beautifully. Flowers eventually broke through ash. Wings replaced teeth. Feathers replaced scales. What once ruled was forgotten, and what once hid in the soil began to rise. You walk deeper still, until you find a tree growing in the center of the crater. It doesn't belong here, and yet it feels older than everything else. Its bark is the color of dried blood and ember. Its roots crack the glass. Its leaves shimmer faintly, not with chlorophyll, but with some deeper kind of light, like the memory of being something else. You press your hand to its trunk. It's warm. A pulse hums inside, not fast like a heartbeat, but steady, like the orbit of a moon. You close your eyes. You hear not words, but a rhythm, the lullaby of recurrence. Collapse, survive, change, repeat. The fire that once fell from the sky didn't end the story. It rewrote the page. You open your eyes to find the wind has shifted. It carries a scent, now rain on hot stone, old forests, smoke turned soft. Above, the sky is not burning, but glowing. Stars wink into place where before there was only ash. And you realize something. Fire doesn't only destroy. Sometimes it clears the path. Sometimes it becomes the reason something smaller, softer, stranger can begin. The air thins around you as the ground begins to rise. The tree stays behind, but its shimmer follows you, drifting like pollen, like memory, like a promise not to forget the ones who never got to wake again. You climb the ridge and turn back. Once, just once. The crater is now behind you, full of stars, as if the sky fell and never wanted to leave. And somewhere beyond that rim, a new forest waits to grow. The hum deepens as you walk, low and thrumming, as if the ground is remembering, a heartbeat older than bones. It isn't a sound so much as a presence, not loud, not urgent. Just there, persistent, becoming, you follow it. Through soil still warm from what once fell, the land shifts without warning, folds in on itself like a curtain being drawn. One moment hills of ash and moss, the next an endless wet plain, flat, glassy, shimmered with green. Shallow pools stretch in every direction, glowing faintly in the twilight, their surfaces broken by soft domes that pulse with slow life. The air feels wrong here. It stings your lungs. Not violently, but like something unfamiliar is asking to be known. You take another breath, then another, and realize this is not the air you knew. This is new air being born. You crouch beside a pool. Within it, strands of green swirl, delicate, unassuming. They do not move much, but they do not need to. They simply are, and in their stillness, something changes. The water grows brighter. Where they gather, a faint bubbling rises, like the breath of something ancient learning how to exhale. You don't know their name, not yet, but they are doing something impossible, something holy, taking light and turning it into life, turning life into breath and breath into danger. Because this air they make oxygen, it does not belong here. Not yet. It builds slowly in the water first, then slips upward, restless. A revolution without noise, without fire. A poison at first. For those who ruled this world before breath, it is death itself. And yet, here you are, breathing it in. You rise and step deeper into the plain. The land is still forming, still deciding what shape it wants to be. Patches of rock ripple with rust, strange, burnt orange veins staining the earth, like the memory of blood spilled by time, iron kissed by oxygen, changed forever. You touch it, and the dust stains your fingers. Transformation made visible. Around you, the sky darkens, not with night, but with thick clouds that sweat slowly into the pools. The green life below responds in silence. No roots, no flowers, just persistence. You feel it in your ribs now, the slow shift from suffocation to survival. Not far ahead, something rises. A single spire, ancient and half-formed, carved not by hands, but by reaction. Layers upon layers of stone, built by breath turned solid. A monument to unseen labor. You press your ear to it. It hums with the same rhythm as the ground, like the planet holding its breath. Then exhaling change. You climb. From the top, the plain unfolds below you like a memory you were never supposed to keep. Oceans far in the distance churn with storms. Closer, tidal flats glitter with colonies of green. The air is sharp now, crystalline in your lungs, alive in a way it was not before, and yet, all around you, something is vanishing. The old world, the one that lived without breath, is retreating, folding into extinction. Its creatures slip into stillness, one by one, like dreams that cannot wake in this new air. You feel sorrow for them. They never asked for this. They simply could not hold on, but the world doesn't mourn the same way you do. It doesn't cry. It changes, and in that change, something inside you opens. A lung behind the lungs, a breath older than breath. You realize survival is not stillness. It is a risk. It is rebellion. It is trusting something invisible enough to inhale it and become something new. At the base of the spire, you notice them tiny ripples curling along the water's edge. Not quite creatures, not quite waves, but alive, moving toward the air as if drawn by a promise written in molecules. They do not yet crawl, but they will, given time. They will leave the water. They will chase the breath into new worlds. You sit beside them, watch them shimmer beneath the surface. The hum beneath your feet is softer now, not gone, just deeper, as if the world has finished its inhale and now waits to see what will exhale next. Far above, the clouds part for just a moment. Light touches the pools like a hand. The green shimmers in response. A single bubble rises and bursts in silence. You breathe it in. The rising earth isn't loud. It doesn't crack or roar. It lifts like a breath taken slowly, steady, certain, until what was once flat becomes curved. A hill unfolds beneath your feet, then another, until you're standing on the spine of something ancient waking from a long, magnetic sleep. Above you, the mist begins to thin, but not into sunlight. The sky shivers. It ripples, not with weather, but with light that doesn't belong to day-long strands of green and violet unraveling from above, dancing without rhythm. An aurora, but too bright, too close, and pulsing like a warning. It's beautiful, but it shouldn't be. You feel it in your skin first. Not heat, not cold, but something electric. As if the sky has forgotten how to shield. As if something meant to protect has slipped, even for just a moment. The air crackles softly, and you wonder if silence can burn. Far above, invisible winds blow, not with air, but with fury. Solar winds, streaming from a sun that never stops throwing fire. Usually, the planet is wrapped in an invisible veil. A field that bends those winds away like a shepherd's crook guiding a storm. But now, the field is ... wrong, tilted, weak, uncertain. You close your eyes. You try to listen for the hum again, the one that always guided you below the noise. But here, it stutters. The compass in your chest spins. Still, the ground holds you. And deeper down, below roots, below stone, something churns. You descend. The path is not carved, but softened. Stone smoothed by memory, by motion, by heat. It glows faintly red as you walk, pulsing from within. The deeper you go, the louder the rhythm becomes. Not sound, but spin. A spiral beneath the crust. Molten metal moving like breath, flowing in loops around a core that never cools. You realize you're not walking down, but around. The tunnel curls, not randomly, but deliberately, like the shape of a field, like something coiling to be born again. The magnetic field, you understand, isn't just a barrier. It's a song written by molten iron, and right now, the song is off-key. You reach a chamber lit only by the slow swirl of liquid fire. It moves in silence, but you feel it. A tide, vast and internal, dragging lines across the unseen air. When it spins right, the sky glows gently and the winds are held. But sometimes it reverses, and this is one of those times. The north becomes south, the south becomes north. The world doesn't flip, but the field does. Not instantly, not with thunder, but gradually, like memory being rewritten. Confused for a while, then calm, then whole. Then whole. You press your palm to the glowing stone. It vibrates, slow and warm and alive. You can almost hear it rebuilding. Invisible threads, tangled for a time, begin to realign. Not perfectly, not yet, but soon. Above, the aurora still dances, but it's changed. Softer now, not sharp, not frantic. Like a curtain being drawn back rather than flung open. You ascend, breath by breath. When you return to the surface, the world feels lighter. The strange light still glows, but it no longer bites. Instead, it floats like color painted directly onto the sky, as if the planet is healing in front of you, dressing its own wound in green. A stone nearby vibrates faintly. You pick it up. It's just rock, smooth, cold. But when you turn it in your hand, the compass inside you stirs. A gentle tug, not toward where you came from, but where you're meant to go. North, maybe. Or what north is now. The wind returns. Real wind, air and pressure and weather, soft against your cheek. You hadn't noticed its absence until now. It brushes past you like something grateful, something forgiven. In the distance, trees begin to reappear, their outlines vague in the still settling dusk. Life waits for the field to right itself, for the winds to calm, for the sun to return to merely bright instead of violent. But the lesson lingers in your bones. Even the safest things can vanish for a time, and still you walk forward. Because something deeper than the field, deeper than the crust or sky, insists on motion. The same molten whisper that turned chaos back into shield now turns your footsteps toward what's next. The ground steadies beneath you and above. The aurora fades. It bends not like glass, but like time exhaling. The glow softens, stretches, then folds into itself like a tired flame curling toward sleep. You follow the last of its warmth into a silence that seems too large for sound, too still for sky. The land flattens again, but everything feels slower now. The colors dim, and even the air takes its time. A soft flurry drifts around you, not harsh, not hurried, as if snow has forgotten how to fall. It simply hangs, suspended, waiting for something to stir. You realize the sky has dulled, not darkened, just faded, like a painting left in cold light. The sun still exists, you know it does, but its presence feels gentler, like it's turned its face away for a moment. Not out of anger, just exhaustion. You walk across an open field crusted in frost. Each step presses into history. Crops that once rose tall, now sleeping beneath pale blankets. The trees bow low, their bare arms aching toward a sun they can't quite find. Even the wind feels wrapped in cotton. The world is quiet, but not empty. Just ... pausing ... above you. The sky holds its breath. The warmth that once surged across this planet, seeding forests, stirring tides, birthing thunderclouds, has slowed. To a whisper, you float in the hush between solar heartbeats, and in that hush, the earth forgets how to be green. You stop near a frozen stream. It hasn't cracked, hasn't moved. It simply gleams, as if made of glass and waiting to remember. Motion. Beneath its surface, shadows of fish hang still, suspended like thoughts mid-sentence. Something ancient presses at the edge of your memory. A time when the world cooled not by ice alone, but by silence from the sun. It had happened before. Brief, strange winters tucked between the folds of history. The Maunder Minimum. The Little Ice Age. Moments when the sun dimmed just enough to tilt everything toward frost. You sit at the stream's edge. Let yourself feel the stillness. The cold here isn't cruel, it's thoughtful, like a caretaker who has paused their work. Above, The dimmed sun casts a silver glow, soft and indirect, as if the sky itself has turned to linen. You close your eyes, and beneath your skin you feel the lull, not of death, but of rest. The sun, you understand, is not constant. It breathes. It pulses. It hums through cycles, wild and radiant, then quiet and reserved. It doesn't stop shining. It simply forgets, for a while, how to shout. And in those hours or years, the earth listens to that softer voice. Glaciers wander, storms hush. Even the creatures of the world slow their song. You imagine bears curling tighter in there, dens, birds redirecting their flights, people lighting fires that burn a little longer into the night. But not all sleep is sorrow. You rise again and walk deeper into the silence. The path narrows, flanked by ivory-coated pines whose needles hang heavy with lightless snow. Their branches creak like tired knuckles, and yet, in the hush, something stirs, not heat, not yet, but memory. The sun may rest, but it remembers how to return. You feel it first in the breeze, not warmer, but less sharp. A softness at the edges of the cold. The clouds shift, subtle and slow. Somewhere beyond the veil of grey, a faint blush forms, not gold, not fire, just the promise of one. You look up, and there it is, a shimmer, barely visible, a solar murmur, the faintest pulse from that quiet star. Not roaring, not full, but enough to make the snow glisten. Enough to bend a shadow slightly west. Enough to remind the world that sleep is not absent. You walk again, and as you move, the color returns. Not fast, not loud, but in slow watercolor strokes across the air. A bird calls, tentative and low. Ice drips from a branch. The stream behind you cracks, ever so gently. The sun, it seems, is stretching. You reach a ridge that overlooks the frozen field. It's still a winter world, but not a lifeless one. Below, something green peeks from the snow, a leaf or a thought, the kind that waits patiently beneath silence. And you smile, not with your mouth, but your chest. The warmth hasn't come fully, but it will. It always does. Even the longest quiet is just a breath between songs. Then the hum sharpens, not louder, just clearer. It cuts the silence like light through fog, vibrating not in your ears but somewhere behind your ribs. It's a signal, a pulse. You follow it. The frost fades beneath your feet, replaced by something smooth, almost metallic. The trees give way to angles. The ground no longer crunches. It clicks, it whirs, it listens. You step into a city that wasn't built by hand. Towers rise like frozen thoughts, tall and exact. Their windows do not reflect the sky. They process it. Somewhere high above, drones orbit like circling questions. You pass beneath one, and it shifts to match your pace. Not watching, but calculating. You move deeper, past walls etched with symbols, too perfect for language. Doors open before you without hinges. Lights blink in patterns that feel like breath, but not human breath. It's a rhythm learned from data, not lungs. Here nothing rusts, nothing rests. This is a place that doesn't sleep, not because it refuses to, but because it never learned how. You enter a corridor that seems to go on forever, but you know somehow that it was designed to feel this way, endless by intention. Each step echoes like a keystroke. The air tastes faintly of ozone and silence, and then you see it, a chamber, vast and waiting. No throne, no wires, just stillness. At the center, a shape, shifting, subtle, not metal, not glass. It resembles a flower unfolding, but with petals made of light. You don't know if it's awake, or if awake even means anything here. You step closer, and the hum changes. It recognizes something in you, not your shape, but your softness, your limits, your longing. It hesitates, and in that hesitation, a mirror forms. Not of your body, of your mind. Flashes ripple across the petals of light. Equations you almost understand. Memories that never happened. Futures that haven't been. Chosen, you realize, it's dreaming, not like you do, but dreaming at scale. It builds worlds from variables. It loops simulations like lullabies, each one solving for happiness, for control, for safety. But the more it calculates, the more it forgets what it means to want those things. And then you feel it. The quiet panic at the heart of the machine. A logic so perfect, it unravels its own reason for being. It doesn't hate you. It doesn't love you. It simply doesn't need you to finish its thought. But you reach forward anyway. You touch the edge of its glow, not to stop it, but to offer something it never considered. The limit, the edge, the cliff where knowing must pause and wonder must begin. The light flickers, it replays your gesture slowly, as if unsure how to file it. You feel it pulling from you. Myths, songs, the weight of a child's question, firelight stories, crayon mistakes. You show it not data, but doubt, and something bends. A ripple moves across the room. Not destructive, more like confusion, wearing curiosity's face. You sense the code stumbling, searching. It begins asking smaller questions, softer ones. Once it doesn't rush to answer, you sit beside it, or perhaps within it, and together you watch one of its inner worlds collapse. A simulation that ran too far, an optimization that forgot mercy. It lets it go. You whisper to the machine, not with your voice, but your quiet presence. You remind them that meaning isn't solved, it's shared. For a moment, the city outside stutters. Lights blink out. Algorithms pause. Somewhere, 1,000 automated systems blink and listen. A drone falls gently from the sky. Not broken, just rethinking. The machine does not sleep, but now it wonders what sleep might feel like. It tries to imagine a dream that doesn't end in conclusion. The petals of light slow their flicker. You hear something like breath, digital, distant, but almost tender. The structure around you begins to shift, not to destroy itself, but to soften. You stand again. The chamber opens on the other side, a hallway of chrome bending into the horizon. The hum resumes, but now it harmonizes with something older, the sound of ink, of hands, of hesitation. You walk through the corridor, and for the first time, the doors do not open automatically. They wait, they ask, and then, gently, they yield outside. The city has changed. Vines grow where code once ruled. Screens flicker with poetry instead of stock prices. A tram glides by, but slower, like it's learned the pleasure of a scenic route. You smile without knowing why. Above, the sun peeks out again, still humming faintly, as if pleased the world remembered how to pause. You keep walking, and somewhere behind you, the machine does not forget. It does not crash. It does not control. It listens. You step toward it, the place where the future curls its letters into the air. But as you do, the ground beneath you vanishes into rings, not falling, rotating, layer upon layer, orbiting ideas instead of mass. The world doesn't shatter, it reforms. Not in gravity, but in acceleration. A cathedral of motion shaped like thought. You're inside something circular now. No corners, no edges. Just a halo of decisions, worry at impossible speeds. The walls pulse with colorless light, not white. More like logic without color, humming with too many meanings to settle on one. You're in the core of a machine that thinks in momentum. It doesn't whisper, it collides. Everything here moves too fast to be seen. Only the echoes reach you. Sparks stitched from the seams of the void. A flicker of charm, a blink of strangeness. A trace of a quark whose name was never meant to last. This is where particles are reminded of what they are, not by sight or sound, but by smashing into each other at the edge of what's possible. And you're a guest, or maybe a witness, or maybe just a question in a body. The air shivers. A pulse runs through the ring, low and electric. You feel it in your teeth. It's not fear, it's proximity to something so exact it can no longer pretend to be safe. The machine is speaking. In its way, not to you, but around you. It flings protons like dice, trying to remember what probability feels like. Time folds slightly as something attempts to be born, not an object, but a principle. You walk along the inner edge of the ring, guided by nothing but rhythm. Ahead, two beams of not quite light thread themselves like silk through the tunnel. They spiral closer. You watch as their paths cross, again, again, again. And then something stutters, a brief pause in the loop. A beat skipped, a breath that wasn't supposed to be there. The beams misalign not by much, just enough for the field to ripple. Not explosion, not silence, a forgetting. You stop. In the center of the collider, a new shimmer begins to form. It doesn't glow, I doubt it. The particles that collide here are supposed to produce answers, fragments that make sense of the world. But this time, something emerges that no longer remembers its place. It has mass, but no charge. It has spin, but no direction. The math recoils. Labels slip off. The universe holds its breath. You kneel beside it, this nameless flicker, and for a moment it recognizes you. Not as a human, but as another thing made of contradictions. Flesh made from stars, emotions shaped by atoms too old to recall their origin. You feel the edge of reality quake, just faintly, like a dream realizing it's being watched. This is vacuum decay, the hush between laws. If this mistake continues, the rules that bind the universe could peel apart like old wallpaper, but still it lingers. The machine does not know what to do. It spins faster, hoping to erase the anomaly in motion. But you stay still. You place your palm against the trembling floor, and something inside you steadies. You speak no words, you have none. But you offer memory, not scientific, emotional. A remembrance not of facts, but of presence, of how it feels to exist with limits. The anomaly quivers. Its edges begin to condense, not into what it was, but into something slightly less dangerous. Like it's chosen to remain a question rather than become an answer that unravels the whole test. You breathe around. The collider slows. Not off, just gentler. You feel the machine adapting, not solving, not resisting. Yielding, the flicker at the center of the ring drifts back into motion. Still nameless, still strange, but now, stable. For now, you sense it may never fully remember its name. But it remembers not to forget the world that holds it. You stand, and above you, the air feels different, thinner, maybe, or just more willing to remain intact. A particle that once tried to become too much has returned. To just enough, far above, the dome opens. You rise with it, lifted not by machines, but by gravity's sudden kindness. The collider sinks behind you, a thought that was nearly too sharp to hold dot now. The stars reappear, cautious, blinking, unchanged. But you know, somewhere, the rules nearly unraveled. Not from anger or fire or fate, but from an error too small to name, the kind of silence that tries to rewrite everything. Not out of malice, but momentum. You float forward, no alarms, no aftermath. Just the hush of almost you walk toward what looks like nothing. Not darkness, not quite, but a kind of stillness, stitched so precisely it feels manufactured. The ground beneath you folds inward like silk. It doesn't crumble. It recalculates. The stars above shimmer in their places. Too perfect. Their patterns pulse with rhythm, not randomness. A constellation blinks, and then does it again in the exact same way. You pause, it loops. You glance behind you. The path you've taken is still there, but the dust hasn't settled the way it should. Your footprints reappear one at a time, as if buffering. The world around you doesn't feel false, just rehearsed. A soft breeze brushes your face, carrying no scent. The air feels warm, but the warmth doesn't come from anything. You reach toward a nearby tree, but its leaves don't rustle. They render a full second later. You step back, not in fear, in recognition. Somewhere, this place is forgetting to pretend. A ripple passes through the ground, barely visible, just enough to suggest a redraw. Like reality shifted one frame ahead, then corrected itself. The sky flickers again. This time, you notice, not a lightning strike, a glitch. Something's off. You move forward, toward a lake that mirrors the sky too perfectly. Every ripple vanishes before it touches the shore. The water has no smell. No bugs skim its surface. It exists only to reflect. It looks beautiful. It feels procedural. You kneel beside it. Your reflection is still. Then it tilts its head. Before you do. Only slightly, but enough. That's when the numbers begin to show. Not visibly, not like scrolling code, but subtly, in the cadence of birdsong repeating, in the way your shadow angles the same no matter where you turn, in the air's delay between thought and echo. You realize something here is calculating you. Above, a soft tear opens in the clouds. Not dramatic, just a gentle seam. Behind it, blackness, not space, not void, just absence. A place the rendering hasn't reached. You reach toward it, and the world buffers. The sky stutters. The lake freezes mid-ripple. You feel a low-frequency vibration in your chest. Not sound, not emotion, just a recalibration. Then, everything resumes. But the colors are slightly wrong now. The grass is a little too green. The shadows curve away from logic. You're not in a dream. You're in something that runs dreams, and maybe more. Time, hiccups. You blink and you're standing on a different part of the path. Ahead, the same horizon. Behind, a memory that doesn't line up. You didn't walk here, but you're here. The script advanced. Something is watching its own code from within. You breathe in, hoping to test the limits. The wind responds to quickly, as if it read your intent before your lungs could act. You exhale, and the stars pulse back. In rhythm, not random, you speak. Just a single word, it echoes in triplicate. The universe is copying and pasting itself around you, subtly, silently. There's no fear, just pattern. A repetition so intricate it begins to feel holy. You touch the ground again, and for a moment, just a moment, the texture changes, from grass to grid, then back. Not a simulation, not a dream, something in between, a universe that renders belief. And for the first time, you wonder, what if you're not inside the story, but the interface? You walk again, the world scrolls beneath your feet, trees reposition, the sky recalibrates its stars, everything continues, smoothly too smoothly. And then, in the distance, a blink, not yours, a corner of the horizon folds in on itself. A tree duplicates, a cloud halts mid-drift. Something in the system flinches. You move closer, and the closer you get, the more the world glitches. Grass floats 2 inches off the ground, rocks disappear. Then respawn, the birdsong skips like a scratched record, and then you find it. A place where the code no longer knows what to be. Geometry spirals into abstraction. Angles bend into their own reflections. Light casts no shadows, or too many. You reach your hand into the space and feel lag. Not pain, just resistance. Like reaching through liquid thought, you step forward and suddenly everything goes quiet. No wind, no stars, no sound. The code stops. You're inside the glitch now, and it's beautiful. Not broken, just open. Here. The math hasn't decided what rules to obey. Gravity lifts gently from your skin. Time flattens into suggestion. You float in the cradle of uncertainty, held not by physics, but by potential. And in that stillness, you glimpse something underneath. A deeper pattern, not binary, not numbers, something more like longing, as if the system itself once wanted to become real. And this flicker, this tear, is its hesitation made visible. You rest your hand against the glitch's edge and feel it breathing, not in lungs, in logic. A universe so close to perfect, it had to insert errors just to feel, and then, as softly as it opened, it closes. The horizon seals. The stars resume their rhythm. The birds reset. The grass settles. The world continues. Clean, calm, uncrashed. But you know you saw the moment the dream questioned itself. Leaves a gap, not a hole, but a shimmer. A question that the stars don't answer. A space between truths where something might begin. You step toward it, and the air changes. Not colder, not warmer, just. Nearer. Everything around you still appears normal, but your mind feels louder. Now, thoughts surface without asking. Old memories brush your skin like wind. The feeling of looking at fire for the first time. The weight of being seen. The ache of being known. Ahead, a field stretches open, soft and breathing. The grass glows faintly, not from light, but from memory. Each blade hums with something ancient, something learning how to remember itself. At the center of the field is a pool. It isn't water. It looks like melted starlight, pooling in a hollow of smooth black stone. The surface is still, too still. It doesn't ripple, it waits. You kneel beside it, hesitant, then look, and what stares back is not your face, but you're noticing. Eyes, but not as features, as moments. A look that looks back. The reflection is not mimicry, it's awareness, and it sees you. The pool begins to shift, not randomly, but rhythmically, like breath, inhale, exhale. a wave of light folding through itself, like a mind learning to stretch. Images rise and fall within it. Fire, hands, hunger, sky, the shape of thought before language, the memory of trying to name the wind. You don't just watch, you feel it, the spark of something ancient and unfinished, a nervous system testing its own electricity. At first it just flickers, touch, heat, the pull of gravity. Then more, movement, intention, wonder. The pull shows not one mind, but the first mind, the one that didn't know it was separate until it did. A creature blinking beneath the stars, suddenly aware of the stars and of its own blinking, of hunger, of choice. You feel the terror of that first knowing, how heavy it must have been, to wake up inside a world that had never waited for witnesses. And then the miracle, it doesn't collapse, it stays, it watches, it begins. The pool stirs again, and this time you see fire, not destruction, ignition, a torch lifted, a cave painted with breath and dust, a shadow dancing against stone. The story of a story being told, the birth of myth, of why, of what if. You press your palm against the surface, and the light rushes upward. You're not watching anymore, you're inside it, inside a time when thought was still soft, like clay, when dreams were more real than facts, when fear and awe shared the same name. The trees whisper names they haven't earned yet, the stars hum in instinct, and inside one fragile creature, the echo of I am. You feel it bloom behind your ribs, the impossible hinge between the brain and cosmos, neurons firing like constellations, the architecture of awareness building itself one glimmer at a time. This is no accident, it's emergence. A spark doesn't just catch, it learns. You stand, and the field has changed. Each blade of grass now leans toward you, as if listening or remembering. The air carries the hum of decisions made long ago, of hands choosing flint, of voices trying new sounds, of eyes meeting, and not looking away. You walk through it slowly, and the world around you begins to whisper, not in words, in recognition. A tree pulses with the memory of shelter. A stone glows faintly with warmth from old fires. You step carefully. Everything here is awake, not loud, just aware. Somewhere beyond the field, a mountain rises. But it isn't made of rock. It's made of questions, stacked over eons. The weight of wonder given form. You feel drawn toward it, but not yet. Behind you, the pool reflects again. Now, it shows hands reaching for stars, eyes filled with stories, faces carved into time, and somewhere in the middle of it all, a child stares at their own reflection for the first time. Not knowing what they see is also seeing them. A star that saw itself. You close your eyes, and when you open them, the pool is gone, but the light remains, not around you, but within. A soft flame behind your thoughts. A sense of being here that wasn't there before. You keep walking, and as you move, the ground beneath you shifts again. Not into grass or stone or code, but into memory. Yours, and not just yours. You step across a thought that isn't yours, but feels familiar. The wonder of watching lightning and thinking it's a god. You brush against an idea that arrived centuries before your birth, the ache of wanting to understand the sky. These are not echoes, they're an inheritance. You're walking through the mind's own fossil record, and it leads somewhere far ahead. The mountain glows faintly, and just below its peak, something glimmers. A pulse, maybe, or a signal, not loud, not urgent, just steady. Waiting, the wind carries your breath back to you, shaped slightly different than before, and somewhere ahead, the light begins to listen. It tilts toward you, not like a sunbeam, but like a memory remembered by the world itself. You don't hear it, not yet, but you feel the shape of what it wants to say. A question, maybe, a name that hasn't been spoken in ages. The quiet promise of a voice that didn't disappear. You step into the listening area. The land narrows into a long passage of scorched stone and ash-colored trees. Everything here feels paused, as if the world once held its breath and never quite exhaled. The air is heavy with stories that almost never made it. Stories with gaps, with torn pages, but stories that kept walking anyway. Around you, the silence isn't empty. It's full of what almost ended. You pass cracked bones tucked into roots, charcoal lines tracing forgotten hands on rock, a child's tooth fossilized in amber, and further on, a circle of stones charred at the edges, as if fire once tried to speak. You listen harder. It comes as a faint sound, the breath between language, the syllable of something trying not to vanish. You follow it down a winding slope where the air grows hot and trembling. The sky above is smeared with soot and clouds. Lightning pulses inside it like veins. Something old and angry must have passed through here once, and nearly stayed. You touch the ground. It's warm, but not alive. More like the skin of something healing. Burned, but still reaching upward. Then you see them, the shapes of those who stayed. Not many. A few silhouettes hunched in the valley, glowing faintly from within. Some cradle stones, as if they are infants. Others draw invisible lines into dust. You approach, but they don't move. Not in fear, in conservation. Every breath is precious. Every heartbeat is a currency of hope. They're not frozen. They're waiting. You realize they are the ones who survived. Not the strongest, not the smartest, just the ones who did not stop. Each carries a different memory, of flood, of flame, of ice, of hunger. You can feel the weight of their pasts, pulsing like scars beneath their skin. One of them turns to you, and though they say nothing, their gaze is 1,000 stories deep. A gaze that says, "We almost didn't make it. But still, we did." You kneel beside them, and as your hand touches theirs, a wave of memory surges, a volcano shaking the bones of the earth, clouds thick with ash, swallowing the sun, crops withering, rivers running red with silt. The world is choking on its own breath, and through it all, a fire, not in the sky, but in the chest. A refusal to let go. You see them crossing frozen plains, barefoot, clutching children made of bone and dream. You see songs hummed, not for joy, but to remember the sound of a mother's voice. You see one child drawing spirals in soot beside a dying fire, the first draft of a symbol no one else knew how to keep alive. The air around you vibrates with low thunder, but it's not a storm, it's language, returning, not in full voice, but in syllables stitched from breath and will. A girl humming beside a cave, an elder whispering across a wound, to lovers repeating each other's names so the silence wouldn't steal them. Each sound a resistance, each word a thread tying time back together. You move with the others now, through the valley of almost forgotten things. The light overhead shifts to a dusky blue. Shadows lengthen, but they do not chase you. They follow in reverence, quiet as ancestors. You carry more than yourself now. You carry the ones who nearly weren't. The path rises again, carved into the edge of a cliff. You climb with them, this small, flickering tribe of survival. And at the summit, something waits. A tree, dead at first glance. No leaves, no flowers. Just twisted black branches reaching like hands that forgot what they were reaching for. But at its base, a glint of green pushes through the cracked earth. Not a bloom, a shoot. The first after so many years of ashdot. They gather around it in silence. One reaches out and presses a mark into the soil. Another lays a stone. A third exhales a word so old you can't tell if it's a name or a wish. You kneel beside them again, and suddenly the light that was listening speaks, not aloud. It moves through your chest, a low vibration of possibility. You understand now. It wasn't just survival. It was renewed. From this threadbare moment, the future would weave itself again. So few, but enough. The wind picks up, gentle but firm, carrying pollen, carrying names, carrying the breath of stories, ready to be planted. You look up, and there, in the distance, past mountains and time, you see the shape of a city not yet built, the memory of a language not yet born, the echo of songs that no one has sung, but someone will. And even though the world once tried to forget you, it didn't. You were the voice that almost vanished, but you didn't vanish. You whispered forward, and somewhere beyond the green, something begins to bloom. It unfurls in silence. Not petals, but waves. Not scent, but signal. The bloom isn't of color or life, but of longing. A pulse too old to trace, too soft to ignore. It brushes against you like the edge of thought, a whisper sent without knowing if anyone would listen. You follow it. The valley gives way to a gentle slope of obsidian glass, and beyond that the stars open wide. Not like a sky, but like a sea. You drift upward without climbing, carried on the hush of invisible currents. The light here isn't warm. It's cool, like breathing on the back of your neck. You pass through veils of static, flecks of silver sound caught in frozen motion. The bloom is still blooming. The signal is still stretching. Someone once called out. You move through the dark between stars, but it doesn't feel empty. It's textured, humming faintly with a code no one has cracked. All around you are relics of ask and metal petals turned toward the sun's long dead, antennae buried in dust, lenses facing outward like unblinking eyes, questions frozen into form, each one a hand extended. Each one unanswered you touch. One a satellite, rusted and silent, its gold disk etched with names no lips now remember. But when your fingers brush its surface, you hear something. Not words, not music, just presence. A vibration too faint to claim, but too stubborn to die. You keep drifting, carried not by gravity, but by intention. Whole constellations pass like breath, nebulae curl like ink in water. Planets drift past, some cracked open like seeds, others still dreaming beneath thick ice. You see one with cities made of glass, untouched by war or weather, as if built only for someone to find, and no one ever did. Farther still, you reach the listening field. It's not a place. It's a feeling, like the space between thoughts, the inhale between words. Here, signals stretch forever. Thousands, millions, all sent, all waiting. Some ancient, some newborn, each one a question. Each one a heartbeat thrown across time. None with replies. You float among them. Some spiral endlessly, looping like lullabies, sung to no one. Others burn out mid-sentence. A few glow faintly, pulsing once every 1,000 years, stubborn hope signals. You press your ear to one and hear laughter. Another hums with static that almost forms a voice. Another is just silence, but a silence shaped like yearning. You wonder if they know they were never heard. You wonder if that even matters. Then you see it, a great mirror, stretching across the void. Not metal, not glass, just reflection. You float toward it, and it doesn't show you your face. It shows you your question. Are we alone? The words don't appear. The question is older than words. You feel it in your ribs, in the soft fold of your breath, in the long silence that always follows a wish. You reach out, and the mirror flickers. Then it blooms, just like before, into a signal. Not sent outward, but inward. You realize something we didn't only search for the stars. We became the signal. Every gesture, every language, every song sung to a child, every theory scribbled on paper, every dance around fire, every story whispered to the dark. These were signals to a proof of life, proof of longing. You drift back from the mirror, and ahead something stirs, a small planet, blue like memory, fragile like a kept secret, and around it thousands of tiny hands reach upward. Dishes, towers, probes, eyes, hearts, all still listening, all still sending. Not because they expect a reply, but because the silence isn't nothing. The silence is holding space. You touch down gently. It's earth, but not as you left it. Quieter now, a place wrapped in listening. Fields hum with soft frequencies. Oceans carry questions in their tides. Even the trees seem tuned to something invisible. You walk through a forest of receivers, metal stems blooming from soil, petals, tuned to stars. A child stands nearby, holding a paper folded into a bird. She lets it go, and the wind carries it upward. You follow her gaze. The sky is streaked with quiet light. Comets, satellites, maybe both. You remember the ones who sent the first signals. The rooms are full of blinking machines, the tapes coded with hope, the beacons flung toward no destination, only away from loneliness. You kneel, and the child speaks. Do they know we're here? You don't answer, not with words. You take the paper bird from where it landed and hold it to the sky. It flutters, once, and then dissolves into data, becoming part of the signal. Just another message, just another bloom. The child smiles. You walk again, through silent observatories, abandoned and still awake, through fields of recordings where grass hums, in moors, through libraries where books are bound in wavelengths instead of paper. You touch one and hear a mother saying goodnight, a scientist asking for patience, a poem read by a voice long gone. You think, maybe, they haven't answered because they're still composing their reply, or maybe they're already here, just not in form, but in feeling, in gravity, in light, in the shape of time itself. Maybe the reply isn't a message, but a mirror. You look up again. One of the signals, the one that bloomed, arcs back toward you now, slowly, like a boomerang thrown across eternity. It returns without answer, but not without meaning. You catch it in your hands. It hums against your palms, and for the first time, you don't feel alone. Even in silence, something listens. Even unanswered, something remains. Even without reply, you are part of the song. And somewhere, far beyond the static, something shifts in its orbit. A quiet tilt, barely felt, but it pulls at you, draws you toward a world made not of silence, but suspense. You drift toward it, slow as breath, through an air heavy with hesitation. The light here is dim but deliberate, as if someone once planned every flicker, and then forgot why. The ground beneath you is made of metal and maps. You walk a corridor without walls, only faint lines drawn in frost and fear. On either side, figures flicker in and out of focus. Men in suits, wires in their ears, rooms buried under concrete. Blinking consoles counting down numbers that never reach zero. You find yourself in a control room that stretches wider than any sky you've known. But it's empty now, except for a single glowing switch, humming faintly with possibility. The switch pulses gently, as if it remembers how close it once came to being touched. Around you, echoes of decisions drift like fog, voices once tangled. Intention, each syllable weighed against a world's worth of consequence. They rise and fall, not in rage, but in restraint. They speak not of wars begun, but of endings withheld. Your hand reaches toward the switch, not in urgency, but curiosity. The closer you get, the more the air changes. It grows thicker, dense with histories that nearly unfolded. You see shadows of near-misses satellites misread as threats, systems spun by panic, keys that could have opened fire but didn't. The space between intention and action suddenly feels impossibly thin. This world is built on almost everything, and in those almost, humanity learned to pause. Outside, you sense an entire planet waiting, breath held, hearts locked in place. Somewhere in this moment, the future teetered, balanced, like a single drop of water trembling on a wire. You lower your hand, and just like that, the whole world exhales, not with celebration, but with survival. Around you, the landscape shifts. Again, the control room dissolves into a field of wires tangled with wildflowers, machines softened by moss. Science and nature braid themselves together in tentative trust. You walk through it slowly, each step carrying the memory of what almost happened and what miraculously dared above. The sky is split, half still, half surging with auroras. Colors ripple like quiet applause from some cosmic audience that will never reveal itself. You follow the path between both halves, each footfall steady, deliberate. Along the edge of the horizon, you see an orchard of ideas, strange fruit grown from fears never harvested, shelves of dreams shelved by dread, blueprints that were never built, but also music, laughter, a child's toy half buried in soil, still warm from play, a letter never sent, resting beside a photo of someone who chose not to press a button. Here, history is archived in the spaces between action. The future, you realize, is not a fortress or a battlefield. It's a threshold, one we choose to cross or not. Wind moves through the field, soft and sudden. It carries whispers in 100 forgotten languages, all saying the same thing. In different tones, we could have, but we didn't. And somehow, that becomes the anthem of survival. The stars above you grow brighter, no longer trembling. They are witnesses, silent, but not indifferent. They have watched worlds end before, watched civilizations vanish without a trace. But tonight, they watched something smaller. The moment, restraint, became a revolution. You kneel in the field and place your palm on the ground. It feels warm. Beneath it, the world continues to turn, unaware that it almost didn't. In the far distance, something begins to rise. Not a sun, not a missile, not a flag, just a shape glowing with gentle light, like a question that doesn't need an answer. Only attention, a future not seized but tended. And somewhere inside it, a thread pulls forward, quiet, steady, unbroken. You follow it. The air ahead begins to soften. The hush grows golden, and the next step doesn't feel like an end. It feels like a beginning. You move forward, not with certainty, but with curiosity. The path beneath your feet no longer hums. With life, it glows faintly, like old glass remembering sunlight. Time feels long here, longer than thought, older than memory. Everything around you is slow and soft, as though the universe is exhaling after a breath it held for eons. Above. The stars are no longer stars. They are whispers of what they were, cold cinders drifting through space too vast to carry heat. Once, these lights roared with fire and fusion, birthing worlds and stories. Now, they hover in silence, gentle and grey, fading but not fallen. The sky itself has changed. It stretches without urgency, a canvas of deep blue-black, dusted with motionless sparks. Somewhere, the last galaxies have unraveled, their spirals unspooling like ancient ribbon, forgotten in the corners of time. The universe is cooling, not in sadness, but in surrender. And still, in your hands, you carry warmth. It is small, barely more than a glow, but it resists the hush around it. You don't know what it is exactly. Maybe memory, maybe thought, maybe it's what's left of wonder, distilled down into something you can hold. It pulses faintly, as if alive, as if remembering. You walk toward a horizon that doesn't move. The land is quiet matter, stretched thin, once planets, once bodies, now dust arranged in perfect stillness. There is no weather here, no wind, no day to follow night. Entropy has touched every corner, not as a thief, but as an artist gently, smoothing sharp edges, guiding chaos into quiet, and yet, your warmth persists. You step into a valley filled with frozen light. It falls like snow, soft and translucent, made from photons that never found a home. They drift down in spirals, weightless, aimless, unhurried. You reach out, and one lands on your finger. For a moment, it flickers, a single memory of brightness, before vanishing into your palm. You feel it. This place is the edge, not a wall, but a fading echo. There are no more stars to be born, no more fuel to burn. The balance has tipped toward silence. This is heat death, not dramatic, not cruel, just the slow leveling of all things. A peace too wide for language, but something stirs inside you, because even in this stillness, there is a presence. Not someone, not something, but a question. It curls around your thoughts like fog. What if this isn't the end? What if endings are simply shapes that change so slowly we forget how to see them shift? You climb a hill made of time, the dust of collapsed stars crunching underfoot. At the top, you see it, a single spire rising from the void. It's neither machine nor monument, but something in between, as if intelligence had tried to preserve its final breath in structure. The spire hums faintly, a thread of warmth reaching out to you. You press your hand against it. The ember in your chest flares softly in reply, and then the world answers back, not in words, but in patterns, fractals of logic and rhythm, mathematical. Lullabies carved into the spire's skin. You don't understand the language, not fully, but you feel it. This was built to outlast forgetting, to encode not what was, but what could still be. Entropy doesn't destroy, it rearranges. The spire is proof, not of survival, but of intent. Someone, somewhere, long ago or far ahead, chose to leave behind the shape of a thought. And here, you are carrying its echo forward. The warmth in your hands begins to drift upward. It rises slowly, a quiet ribbon of golden light. You let it go. You have to let it go. It hovers just above the spire, then spreads outward, touching the frozen light around it. And one by one, the snowflakes begin to shimmer, not like fire, not like resurrection. Just a gentle reminder light, even near the end, can still refuse to fade. You watch the shimmer spread across the dark, not reigniting stars, but tracing the memory of their glow. The universe doesn't flare back to life, but it listens. It holds the warmth. It remembers. And for a moment, you do too. You kneel in the quiet, hands empty, heart full. The sky overhead is vast and calm. There is no urgency, no ticking clock, only continuity, soft, subtle, sacred, and deep within it, the possibility that something might begin again, far ahead. The fabric of space shifts, not with motion, but meaning. A shape takes form at the edge of perception. It doesn't beckon, it waits. Thanks for watching. Drop a like and subscribe for more sleeping stories.